Hello!
Welcome to this week's edition of
The Horror Hags. I'm Marco.
I'm Zach. And this week we're talking about a great topic. We're doing zombies. But before we get started, I do want to clarify a major difference between a couple things.
Tell us, Zach.
I would like to talk about the difference between zombies and infected.
Here she goes.
This is a topic that really stirs my loins, if you will.
You're
like
sitting too
people-
close to me
I
over there
know.
with the
You could
stirring in the
probably
loins.
Smell me from here. I'll take a whiff.
Zachary.
But I think this is something people overlook a lot. I think this is something that people willy-nilly label as zombies without really fully understanding what's running after them in the middle of the night, right?
Fucking zombies.
You would think at the time I would say anything is a zombie, but here we go. Infected. Now, infected generally are fast-moving creatures. Now, you see these in the movies like, I don't know, World War Z, right? We'll see them there. We see them in a movie we're going to be covering today called Train to Busan, which is one of my favorite all-time infected zombie movies of all time, right? Sure, the category itself is called zombies, but let's get to what it really is. Something catastrophic has happened to the human populace, whether it be a disease, whether it be government interference with radioactive bullshit, testing,
Zach is very serious today.
medical.
Continue.
I don't know. Whereas zombies are very slow-moving creatures, right? It'll take them a year and a half to walk across the street, right? Like you can run
But
away,
they're still scary.
but there's a bunch of them.
And it's so the movies we're covering today have both, right?
Yes,
The infected fast zombies, and then of course the retro movie that I picked has the slower paced zombies that kind of shuffle around aimlessly, which is funny, but
And this is something
we
cool
love
you
'em.
can kind of look at, like when you watch more of these zombie movies, you say like, oh, these are, I guess, more infected. Like, oh, I guess these people have caught a rare disease and now they're flesh-eating monsters. Like, I would consider those infected.
Zachary, why don't you tell our listeners the movies that we are covering today?
You're right. So the three that we're going to be hitting are Train to Busan,
Right.
which is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
It's very good. Zombieland, because we love a good horror comedy when it's done right.
Well, yeah, you do. I don't love horror comedies, but this one I like a lot.
And then what was
Oh, wait, I'm going to say it. Yes. The one that I picked was The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. And I always say it with a British accent. I don't know why.
Oh, yes, you do. Because the whole thing is in merry time.
Is Mary time?
I
Okay. Whatever that I don't know what that means, but okay. And I actually picked that one for a reason, right? I didn't want to do Dawn of the Dead. I didn't want to do Night of the Living Dead. I didn't want to do kind of like these very popular movies that are kind of like part of pop culture. I wanted to do something that's not as well known.
Right.
And this particular movie is, and we'll talk about it later, but it's a foreign film.
And it's also important for us as podcasters to introduce you to new things, right?
Yes.
Not necessarily just always keep covering the same old bullshit that you already know. Because what's the point? Why would you listen to some two random idiots talk about something you already know about?
Don't call us right
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we jump right into Train to Busan?
Let's.
I thought this movie was phenomenal. The first time I watched it, I could not look away. There's so much action jam-packed into this movie. Something that a lot of people might struggle with. I think less so in today's society because I think we covered anime in one of our past podcasts, but the subtitles.
Did we? I don't think so.
We did. We touched upon it a little bit. The nuance of reading subtitles while watching the movie.
That we did cover, yeah.
People might find distracting, right? It is a foreign film. It's Korean.
It's Korean. Yep.
South Korean.
Right. Why is that funny, Zach?
Well, it's not funny. It's just there's no way I'm going to be watching a North Korean film.
That's where I thought you were headed.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's
Got
just
it.
no way I could probably. Anyway, I think one of the most iconic scenes in this is when we're watching the little girl on the train take off, She's watching the conductor kind of wave her on as he is just tackled by this infected person and being ripped to shreds right in front of her eyes, and she's just blatantly watching this happen. And that's really sets the tone for the whole movie, I think, right? Um, Further on, this whole movie is really set on the train for a lot of it because it's going from point A to point B.
Yeah, most of it. Can I say something about South Korean movies?
Yes.
So this isn't the only South Korean film I have seen. I wanted to make a note that there are three that I can think of that I saw. Three South Korean movies that are amazing and kind of like in the horror genre. The Host,
Okay.
The Wailing, and then something called Snowpiercer that is not horror, it's more sci-fi. But these are three great South Korean movies.
All
Just,
subtitle?
just wanted. Snowpiercer's in English.
Okay.
The other two are subtitled.
Got it.
I don't know. I just wanted to say that. I'm calling them K-horror.
Oh,
K-horror.
K-horror. I mean, K-pop, K-horror,
K-horror, yeah,
K-fashion.
K-horror.
I don't know.
There are a lot of great movies coming out of South Korea.
Yes.
And that's why I'm mentioning that. Yeah.
Let's see. What else can I say about you? Talk about Train to Busan a little bit.
So, Train to Busan. For me, the zombie, I'm going to call it zombie, right? Because I'm old fashioned. The zombie
should.
genre is a little saturated with The Walking Dead, on the spin offs, and all this stuff. Like, after the resurgence of zombies, I was kind of a little sick of watching zombie movies.
Yes.
But then there was this buzz on Train to Busan, and I'm like, well, I guess I got to watch it, right? Because all of the buzz was great. And this is a trip down memory lane, people.
Blah, blah, blah,
Trip down memory
blah,
lane.
blah.
I decided I went to Argentina a few years ago, and from Buenos Aires we went to this place called Punta del Este, which is really far away. You have to take a ferry for a couple of hours and then a bus for a couple of hours. And I decided that on the bus I was going to watch Train to Busan.
Why not?
Yeah,
Best way to do it.
Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? I'll be distracted, but it won't matter because I want to see this movie. Don't really want to see it because I'm tired of zombies. And I was blown away.
It was fabulous.
Blown away. Yeah.
They just create such good character concepts in this movie too. Like you see a lot of archetypes of like the dad savior trying to save his daughter, and then you have like the guy who's bitten and doesn't want to show it, and then who turns into
Right.
a terror.
That was one of the things that that actually attracted me to the movie. There are characters that are developed, right?
Yes.
So it's not like a bunch of people trying to survive and you don't know who these people are.
Right.
So the father-daughter story arc is,
It's
one of the main
there.
things of the movie, and I thought it's done very well. And I actually thought it was very touching because
Oh
what-
my god, that ending scene.
Right,
Yes.
right. But I just thought it was interesting that they didn't like each other, but they bonded over this horrendous zombie infestation, right? So I thought that was not only touching, but it was kind of like darkly funny,
Right.
that's how they bond.
Something else we want to, really touch upon in this is a lot of times in maybe some B-rated zombie infected movies, characters get lost. A lot of times we get introduced to people and then they're just for no reason eaten 2 seconds later.
Well,
Or
yeah, they're there
we're-
to get eaten.
They're fillers, right? And we don't
That's
get a lot
okay,
of
though.
like it's okay,
Yeah,
but
right.
sometimes the stories are a little dry.
right.
This one really has a nice driven story, a plot, an end game, an end goal.
Right.
And some really, really great effects too. Like I thought the zombies in this were like scary. Like they had some when someone is bitten and infected, like people arch their backs back. and
Oh,
their
I know.
eyes,
They're all like twisted.
Yes,
Yeah.
they twist around. It's scary.
Like that chicken Suspiria,
Yes, yes. Oh,
which we talked about in the first podcast.
yes. Go watch, listen, both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I watched it for the second time a couple of days ago in preparation for this podcast, and I remember the first person that got bitten on the train. That was pretty scary.
It was.
It was the woman who worked on the train.
Yep.
She got bitten by a passenger, and that passenger was all twisted on the floor,
Yes.
and then kind of like.
It was so almost like I could see this happening, right? Like if I was envisioning a zombie attack, I could see this craziness being the start of it. And it just really burned into my mind that initial scene of that first transition of human to infected zombie.
Yeah.
It was gross, but in a good way. Like, you wanted to see more. You were instantly drawn into the action, and it was nonstop. I mean,
It was, and that was one. So when I watch these movies to prepare for the podcast, I take notes, right? And one of the notes says here, "Shit hits the fan pretty early on and rarely lets up," and it's true. Like I
It's true.
think half an hour, maybe 20 minutes into the movie,
Yeah.
it's like relentless.
Yes, and it's not even bad, relentless, right? Like,
No,
it's
it's good.
engaging, relentless.
Yeah.
Like, you're seeing people that you've related with, or people that you've kind of seen backstories of, and then you have the intense zombie action, and then finally you have a very, very touching ending scene,
Right.
right, where the daughter's singing the Aloha Oi song. Remember?
Which I thought was a bit much, but that's
was
okay because the
much.
movie's really good. I'm gonna forgive it.
True.
Yeah.
And Korean dramas are known to go that extra mile too. So
Really?
they always push the boundaries a little
Really?
bit. Yeah.
Huh. I did not know that.
Yes.
What I do know is that I wrote this down and I had to mention it. The attack at the train station, kind of like in the middle of the movie, when they get off the train and they're in the station,
Yes.
that was really intense
Yes.
and almost scary. I was telling Zach earlier before we started recording that movies don't scare me anymore because I watch so many of them. But that scene kind of did.
Yeah.
I was
send
like,
you for a
shit.
loop.
Yeah.
And see that.
You know why that scared me, Zach? I'll tell you why that scared me.
Yes, go into it.
Because I was thinking I would never survive in a situation like that. I would be the first to die.
Well, similar in my head too. My head is like, if I get into a cramped space like that, the most terrifying thing is a bunch of human-like things running at me, right? And that's exactly what the Train to Busan did for me, was put everybody in cramped, little tight trains and spaces,
Yeah.
and then had floods of people try to eat you alive.
You know what I thought about during Train to Busan? I don't know why. I thought about snakes on a plane.
Very similar.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
that confined space.
Right.
You know, there's like a target, right? There's a deadly force, the snakes, the
Yeah.
infected, the zombies.
Right, right.
It's gonna eat you.
Okay, moving along. I wanted to mention the in Train to Busan, the expecting father is what I call him
Yes.
with the wife.
Yes.
Do we love him or do we hate him?
I don't know.
He was kind of an ass,
He was an asshole.
but he saved a lot of people. We should begin these podcasts by telling people spoilers. There's spoilers all over
there
our podcast.
are a lot of spoilers.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think it's almost like that, like, neutral good alignment, right? Like, yeah, he's an asshole, but like he saved a bunch of people, and at the end of the day, which is better, right? Like, are you an asshole? Did you save a bunch of people?
Right.
Your alignment is neutral good, I think. There's also, like, do you know about that? Like, chaotic good, lawful good, all that jazz. They're like character alignments.
No, but I'll
we'll
Google
talk
it.
About it
We'll
another
talk
time.
offline.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it's funny that we're talking about this because it goes back to the fact that this movie actually develops the characters, right? So we
Right.
kind of get to know this guy. We know he's an ass, but he's also complex. He cares about people.
Right.
You know,
At
he
the
saved
end
a
of the
little
day,
girl a
he's
couple of
little
times.
softy.
Yeah, he is a little softy. I was sad to see him go. What about the sisters, the two old sisters? Oh, I related to them because I'm probably close to their age.
Wow. There it is.
No, I'm not that old, people. But no, I love the sisters, the two older sisters on the train.
I think really for me, what hits home for a zombie movie is if you can carry a plot well, right? Because a lot of them cannot. So if you can carry a plot well, if you can have some kind of character stability throughout the movie, I think that really hits home for me during a zombie movie. And if it's fun,
During any movie, really.
entering any
Like,
movie,
we
right?
we want to know the characters.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it's fun. And this movie was scary, but it was
It was fun as well,
You
yeah,
know,
right.
like, you got some zombie action.
Right.
Like, people were nasty, gory, bloody, filthy, and they were running and fast and scary. Like, zombies were great. in
Yeah,
this
and
film.
again, like I saw it on a bus, and going from.
How was that? Did you ever feel like, oh my God, they're on my bus right now?
No,
Are they chasing
I
me?
did not. But my intention was kind of like to watch it casually, and I was with 3 friends, and if they were going to talk to me, I was going to like talk back and have fun on the bus. But I have to tell you, the whole time I ignored my 3 friends, and I was so focused on this
Oh my
movie.
gosh.
Yeah, so it made me pass. It made the time pass quickly, right? So I was very, very surprised and pleased.
So all in all, Train to Busan, a
Good
must-see
one.
for zombie film
Go
lovers.
get it, people.
Let's do Zombieland. Zombieland. If you
All
haven't
right.
seen this movie, what are you doing?
I think probably most people listening
Most
would have seen
people
it, right?
should go see this movie if you haven't seen it. Zombieland is one of my all-time favorite movies. I remember when this movie came out. It was around the Walking Dead resurgence revival.
I looked it up,
Yes.
and it was a year before The Walking Dead happened. And the reason I looked that up is because I remember, I think there was a big dry spell when it came to zombie movies, right? So for many, many years, zombie movies just weren't a thing,
Yeah.
right? And then Zombieland came out, which is a horror comedy, which I don't tend to like as much unless they're really done well.
Right.
And then I went to see it. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen a zombie movie in years. Let's go see this. And it was funny and entertaining,
Yes.
and the zombies are fast.
Yes.
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 Another
Yes.
fast
Yes.
zombie movie. And when I watched it just the other day again, I was so the notes that I take, right? I love the narration in it.
Yes.
So I love that Jesse Eisenberg. How do you say his name? Eisenberg.
Yes.
I'll look it up. I love his delivery is so dry, and he's kind of like
That dry.
very
humor.
neurotic,
Yeah.
paranoid, right?
OCD kid,
Right,
you know.
right.
I mean, he even goes in the beginning like I play World of Warcraft all the time and when that poor girl is getting chased in the first minutes of the movie, he offers her Mountain
Oh,
Dew.
yes.
He's that gamer kid
Right.
of like, the early 2000s, just raiding in World of Warcraft, doing his best, and this zombie thing just hits the fan.
Right.
I mean, and then you have other characters like Tallahassee, who's just the time to nut up or shut up guy.
The character names were very funny. Like so, Jesse and it's Eisenberg, was Columbus.
Right.
Emma Stone was Wichita.
Right.
Woody Harrelson was Tallahassee.
Right. Well, because they didn't want to know names. It was
Right,
all, where are
right,
you
right.
going?
I love
Where are
it.
you going?
And Abigail Breslin was Little Rock,
right.
which was amazing.
It's all where you going. They didn't want to know names.
Yeah.
So.
The only one who had a real name was Bill Murray because he played
Bill
himself.
Murray was Bill Murray.
Right.
Which what a cameo. I mean, I thought it was fantastic.
That was a great cameo.
He even came back to dead in a Ghostbusters outfit. I mean, come on. Come on. And his big mansion, I mean, it
Right.
was
It's really
beautiful.
funny. And it works.
Like Marco said, the zombies are fast. I
Yep.
think they said something about a virus, so I think it goes along the lines of the infected thing again.
Right.
Don't think I'm criticizing, right, when I talk about this. This is just for food for thought for you to think about. Like, oh, is this a zombie? Zombies are more like raised from the ground by some necromancer spell guy, right? Whereas
Those are voodoo zombies.
voodoo zombies,
Yeah.
right? Or these are more of hey, there's a virus that hit the whole human population, right?
Right.
That's what these two movies really are, right?
Because
the virus.
because we know the history of zombies, right?
Right.
Zombies were in the lore,
the lore,
right? Were people people that were alive
Yeah.
that were kind of sedated to a point where they were slaves, right? So that's where the whole zombie thing comes.
Right.
And then Mr.
That's why they're
Romero,
slow.
our
That's-
god George Romero, who's sadly no longer with us, took that and made it into a slightly different version, right? With Night of the Living Dead,
Right.
with people literally coming out of the grave.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Oh, yes, they are. We can't talk about zombie movies without at least mentioning
know.
the
I mean,
godfather of the zombie films,
It
right?
really paved the way for a lot of the cinema, and yeah, it would do it injustice not to talk about it. But for this podcast, we're going to stay away because we have a very, very exciting old throwback for you.
Yes, which we'll talk about in a minute. So, what do you prefer fast zombies or slow zombies?
I think in this current age, I like the fast. I think slow people have adapted to in
Right.
a sense,
Mhm.
whereas fast zombies, that's a whole new challenge for us. Our us horror watchers to maneuver around the fast hordes of zombies. I mean, look at what happened in Train to Busan. Nothing can prepare you for something like that. As much as you want to prep a backpack, prep a weapon,
Right.
prep whatever you can. Those fast zombies will get around, get to you, get underneath you, get into you. They will find you.
Now, I don't know if this was the first movie that did fast zombies, but Dawn of the Dead, the remake, was the first time that I remember seeing fast zombies, or maybe it was 28 Days Later, one of the two.
Right.
And I was just stunned. I
Both
was like,
great
"Oh,
movies.
this
Both
is
great
good. This
movies.
changes the game."
Yes.
Yeah.
28 Days Later was another killer. We should cover that one later on.
Yes, we should.
Fantastic movie. But yes, the fast versus slow phenomenon really changed the game, I think. I think before it was a matter of production means. I think George Romero needed a way to present his ideas, and it was in the slow moving sense.
Well, I think also, and I don't know if this is true, but I think with modern technology, I think they can manipulate the images where these fast zombies are even faster, right? They couldn't do that back in the 60s. I mean, listen, I don't know if that's the reason why we have slow zombies and fast zombies, but it's just a thought, right? You know what was funny in Zombieland? The little girl zombies at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah, they were like attacking the mother. I'm assuming she was a mother in the car, and they were all dressed up like little princesses, obviously at a party.
Yes.
Yeah, I thought that was hilarious.
One of the best things about that movie is the rules that he goes over.
Oh yeah,
Like rule number one, cardio.
Yeah.
There's the simple survival rules he goes through to get himself through the zombie apocalypse.
Rule number 7: don't be a hero, which he breaks at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Which that finale scene was just an epic of zombie madness. Right. The carnival. There's always.
I thought
a
it was fun in the amusement park.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And if you guys are Left 4 Dead fans, the carnival scene is very reminiscent for you there too.
You know what? I wanted to mention this. Going back to the beginning, so the movie kind of has the little setup scene, and then then it has the credits, right? And during the credits, there's a Metallica song, which I think sets the tone for the whole movie, and it's a song called "For Whom the Bell Tolls," which kind of like is a creepy song, right? And heavy metal,
it's
and
in
it
that minor key.
it kind of sets the tone for like this fast pace. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
Which, I mean, Metallica is just the classic dad rock zombie killing marathon madness.
Right.
Yeah. Right up. And plus, like, Tallahassee, it just fits him going into zombie slayer
Oh, it
mode.
does. Yeah.
I know, doesn't it?
Does, yeah.
Do you remember Sister Mary Edna's Zombie Kill of the Week?
Tell us, Zach.
Sister Mary Edna's. So they had Zombie Kill of the Week, and they're like, nope, Zombie Kill of the Week goes to Sister Mary Edna. And she just drops the piano on the zombie.
And I was like, but wait, how did she know to put a piano up there and then let it go when the zombie... Okay. Yeah, that was funny. That was funny.
I hope she makes a comeback in Zombieland 2.
Oh, maybe, which is coming out soon. Yeah,
I really hope. And I really hope they don't fuck it up.
So one of the notes that I took also, and we mentioned it already, horror comedies are tricky, but this one gets it right. And I kind of like this one more than Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead was good.
Yes.
But it's so funny. I'm like, why did I like this more than Shaun of the Dead? And I think it boils down to one thing, and it's very personal. When I went to see Shaun of the Dead, I went to see it with somebody I was dating.
That'll kill it.
Wait, I could have told you he was the best boyfriend ever.
I don't care.
By the look on my face, you know that this is not a good story.
Well, he's not here, so.
No, he's not here. But he was one of these people that constantly needed attention.
Right.
So we went into the theater, which was half full, and he would laugh really loudly at like stuff that wasn't funny. So the whole time I was embarrassed.
Shaun of the Dead had a lot of douchebag comedy in it. You know, it had a lot of like.
Yes,
and
that boyfriend was a douchebag.
Right.
Oh, I hope he's not listening to this podcast.
This one had more generic comedy about it. I mean, like Tallahassee, this big burly man's obsession with Twinkies was just hysterical. And the fact that he found a truck full of snowballs in the beginning and he
with
loses
coconuts.
his
He
mind.
hates coconut.
Not the taste, just the consistency.
Just the consistency. Right.
Yes.
Do you think that was a gay gag that he loved Twinkies? A little subtext there?
No, I don't think so. Tallahassee.
Am I stretching?
I think you're stretching.
Yeah, okay.
More than you would normally do on a Saturday.
Oh.
She's burned today.
Oh, I'm not even gonna say a word. And I also thought that this was an interesting tidbit.
What's that?
So the movie was directed by Ruben Fleischer, and I was looking it up, and I'm like, what else has he directed? Venom, which I don't care what the critics say. I loved Venom.
Venom was really well done.
Yeah.
And he kept the action up in that movie too.
He did.
Like, it was still like they had some witty comments here and there, but like the action was just phenomenal.
Right. Yeah, so. I liked it. What else? Oh, the generational divide. There's a lot of great jokes in Zombieland.
Yes.
Where the Abigail Breslin character, Little Rock.
Yes.
She, they're like, oh, don't you, I forget the specifics, but like, oh, don't you know who this person is and that person is, and
Bill fucking Murray.
Yeah, she had no idea.
No idea.
So I thought that whole generational divide was funny.
And they had someone from each, almost like they had like a millennial. They had like almost like
Yeah,
a, you
they
know.
had Woody Harrelson, who was the older guy,
Yep.
Jesse Eisenberg, who probably followed him.
Right.
Emma Stone was a little bit younger than Jesse, I
And
would
then we had a
think,
Gen Z.
and
I
then
mean,
Abigail Breslin was a kid.
right.
Yeah,
Right.
she's funny. That Abigail Breslin.
They're all
We
funny.
love her.
And she plays what's her name? The girlfriend plays an amazing part too. Like she has this badass chick.
Emma
Come Out
Stone.
For My sister. Yeah.
It's so funny because seeing it again, I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was Emma Stone. But I saw it in 2009 when it first came out. I had no idea who she was
You
back
know,
then.
what's one of my favorite movies of her that just came out recently was The Favorite. Did you see that?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, go see that one too. This is a side note.
Just
but
go see movies
just
every
go
day.
see movies
Every
every day.
Every day.
Ah, okay. One of my favorite lines of this movie is when they're like when they get high as hell in California in Bill Murray's house, and they start talking about, oh my God, the zombie, he's on the ceiling,
that
it's
was
the
funny.
ghost,
That
and
was-
they're like, go get, and they're like pretending to be Ghostbusters.
Is that your Ethel Merman imitation?
No, that's my
zombies on the ceiling. That's very that's very Ethel Merman.
That's my after a couple of rosés.
We're having bubbly rosé.
Oh my God, fantastic.
Do you even know who Ethel Merman is?
I don't. I'm uncultured. Smite me.
We're taking your gay card away. People that are listening, if you don't know who Ethel Merman is, Google her. You'll thank me later.
What was she in?
She was a big Broadway person.
Oh.
We'll talk offline.
We'll talk offline.
We'll talk
Broadway.
offline. So Zombieland, fun, fast-paced, never a dull moment. Actors have good chemistry. Interested to see the sequel. Those are my notes.
I want that Hummer, the 3 Hummer. Ugh, just barrel through people. You know when he painted the 3 on the yellow Hummer?
I know what a Hummer
Oh
is.
yes. Well, the Hummer.
And if I didn't, I could get back at you by saying, well, you don't know who Ethel Merman is. But I do know what a Hummer is, even though I'm not into cars.
What else? What else? What else? What was your favorite zombie kill in that movie? There was a lot of like exaggerate.
What's my favorite zombie kill?
Yes. Of the 3 movies we watched, what was your favorite? Yes. What was your
My
favorite? What was your zombie
Yes,
kill of the week?
My zombie kill of the week is in
Yes.
The Living Dead at the Manchester morgue.
Okay.
And it's when they rip the woman's breast off. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yes.
I'm not a misogynist. People don't write hate mail, but I thought that was a cool scene.
Yes.
Because it was just ferocious and it came out of nowhere and
Yes.
I wasn't expecting it. So out of the 3 movies, that was my favorite kill. What was yours, Zachary?
I would have to say I really like when Tallahassee is in the circus and he is just boom, 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 boom in the little booth and they're all like surrounding the booth. It's just him and 2 pistols. And somehow,
Oh, and he's in that little booth.
yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's just bing, 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 bing,
Yeah.
bing, and he's like,
like
big
there's
deal.
no sweat off his ass.
Yeah, no,
Right,
no,
yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, that was good.
Ugh.
That was good.
You want to move on to Manchester Morgue?
Let's move on to The Living Dead at the Manchester
Manchester
Morgue.
Morgue.
So this movie, as you guys know, we do two newer, one
one old.
old. This is one of the older movies.
Yes.
Let's see. So what I wanted to find out is the year. It was in 1974,
Good.
before most of you were born. It's a foreign film. It is. I thought it was Spanish, but it's a Spanish-Italian co-production.
Everyone is very European. Like everyone is just.
So I was telling Zach before we started recording that The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue is one of my favorites.
Yes.
Right? And I love this movie. I watch it probably every year. But watching it recently, after watching Zombieland and watching Train to Busan, just the pace is so different. Right? So
And so are the zombies.
is it, the zombies are, these are slow. Okay, now we're in slow
We're in slow-mo
zombie
zombie
territory,
mode, right?
people. Yep. The zombies are slow. The pace of the movie is slow.
It did.
Right?
It took a while.
It's not a bad thing. I actually love that.
I think the first zombie came on screen like 35, 40 minutes in. Like it took them a while to build up.
which is probably the same as Train to Busan, but Train to Busan just moves quicker, right? So this, it takes a long time to get set up. There's a lot of interesting stuff in this movie. So the opening, in about 3 minutes, the filmmaker tells you a lot about what he's trying to convey, right? So in the opening scene, you see pollution. This takes place in England,
You
right?
see that girl who's topless just walking around New
She's
York?
not topless. She's stark naked,
Oh, she's whole naked? Oof.
bottomless and topless. So, and that's an important scene actually because so it opens up. You see pollution. You see dead birds. You see stagnant water. You see people that are bored and kind of like uninterested.
Right.
This woman strips naked
She's
and
just naked.
I'm
walking around New
assuming
York.
right, this is in England,
Oh,
and
England.
she runs across the street and nobody pays attention to her.
You know, it's funny. I say New York because they used a lot of the same like cinematography things of New York. They had like the pollution coming out of the sewers, right? Like they definitely like exaggerated like New York would, but it wasn't. It was a foreign film, so it's where
I believe it's in England.
England.
Yeah. It takes place in England, even though it's a Spanish-Italian co-production. But I think the point of that first scene is it's a statement on the state of the world, right?
Right.
And the part of the naked woman who streaks and crosses the street and
Love her.
nobody paying attention,
Love it.
that's a New York thing, by the way.
Yes, that.
Nobody,
Yeah, well,
nobody would bat an eye last year.
Yeah.
But so that's 1974, and it's conveying kind of like people being kind of like uninterested, but that's still true today. You
It
know,
is.
I think
Which is scary.
people walking around like zombies,
Yes.
right?
Sheep.
The sheep.
The sheep.
Yes. Where do we go next?
The sheeple.
So I thought that was interesting, and it has a lot to say, right? But it takes its time building up. The zombies are slow. It
I
has
have
a
to
very
say-
European feel to it.
Because of the slow burn, I did get more characters out of this. Like I did have some, even though it was old,
Mhm.
I still had okay. I knew who this person was. I knew who this person was. You know, so it didn't lose me as far as even being an old zombie film. I still had good character development. In this
Right.
Film, I thought so. Yeah.
And I have to say, even though it takes its time getting to like what we call the good stuff, once it gets going, it gets
it's
going.
Like,
right.
like you said, the boob ripping off. Like that was a whole
Yes.
scene.
There's a scene towards the end where the zombies go like they start running amok in a hospital, and this poor nurse who's on the phone
Oh.
talking to God knows who,
Oh.
they come in and they rip her breast off. We
Just
should-
shooting the shit.
Poor thing. Okay, people. I think the wine is getting to us because
Yeah.
now we're laughing.
They
and,
like it though. It's
yeah,
fine.
Okay.
It's
all right.
fine. We're good.
Yeah. So the poor thing gets her breast ripped off. But I have to say, like for a movie from 1974, that's like brutal,
It is.
right?
It is. And plus, like, they
And-
had the breast reveal in the beginning from that first woman in London / I call it New York.
Yeah.
Like, they had a lot of boobage in this. And for 1970s, like,
No, those movies have a lot of nudity,
a lot of nudity.
especially the European ones.
Well,
They love their nudity over there.
good.
Yeah. They also, you know what I also love about this movie? I'll tell you.
What's that?
I'll tell you in 2 words. Ray Lovelock.
Oh, is that the man?
He plays George Meany,
Yes.
and he's just
Every time
he's
he
l-
talked, I just, like, paid attention.
he's lovely.
Yes.
He's even lovelier without the beard.
I didn't like the beard.
He's very pretty without the beard.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
did not like the
Yeah.
beard.
And he's in a lot of Italian horror movies.
Really?
A lot.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
He played a really good part. The ending with him was crazy. Can you
Yep.
believe that?
Mhm.
Just eating that
Sad.
poor cop. But
Yeah, it's bad. So I think so. So he's, I believe, an Italian actor. Cristina Galbo is a Spanish actress. She played the woman, his sidekick, kind of.
yeah.
And then Arthur Kennedy, who played the cop, who's just a mean-spirited
Yeah.
bastard.
What do you say? What do you say? Go ahead.
Oh, I can't say it. No,
Uh,
Zach, don't make me say it.
I won't.
But anyway, he's an American actor.
Said some profanities.
Yeah. He said things that would offend
Yes, we don't want to
uh,
offend anybody.
our gays.
Go watch the movie. You'll
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. It's about hippies and how they dress, and
Yeah.
the F
He didn't
word
like it.
comes out. Yeah, it's not good. So tell us about your impressions on the movie.
What can I say about A Night at the Manchester Morgue? I enjoyed that the zombie. The first time we see a zombie, right? It was this very dramatic scene where she's in a car and she gets out of the car.
The
and she-
sidekick.
Yes, the woman, and she's comes face to face with the zombie, who have this almost like standoff, right, with each other, and then it pans to the zombie, a close up, and we see these beet red eyes,
Right.
which was really well done. I thought I was like, wow, for the time, like that was great. And she gets back into the car because she's so frantic. And the zombie comes over and tries to attack her, right? And she's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe it. He's attacking me." And then she finally
But she doesn't know he's a zombie.
rolls over.
And I don't think he knows what the hell's going. Like he sees her and he's just like, "What's this?
Right.
It's a person." What? Right? I'm a slow zombie. Duh.
But she just assumes it's a man attacking her
Yes.
because she comes
Well, anybody would.
right,
Like any
exactly.
normal person would.
Right.
Yeah.
She runs back over to Mr. Man with the beard
Ray Lovelock.
and is like, "Help! This man is attacking me. You have to get him." Looks no one there.
Right.
gone.
He goes running to see who attacked you. Who
What?
attacked?
You're
She's like, "There's
crazy."
nobody there."
And then the,
Yeah.
the police officer's like, "When people are on heroin, this is what happens.
You hippie
You
bastards.
hippie bastards.
And that F word
and
that
how
we
you
won't
dress, you."
use here.
yeah.
That horrible word.
Ugh. And then, so then they also come to the terms like, this man has been dead for about a week and a half, for a week or so. There's no
Right.
way this guy attacked you.
Yeah, so
You're
I guess
crazy."
she describes him, and they figure out that it was somebody who had passed away.
Within the week,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. So they're like, "There's no way he could have attacked you. You're on heroin." Like instantly went to heroin, which that's what made me laugh. Like I know it's not funny.
Well, the reason that he thought she was on heroin is because her sister in the movie's on heroin.
Yes,
she's
and
a
she's
heroin
nutty.
addict.
She's
right?
nutty.
She's nutty. It's the heroin
It's the heroin,
making you crazy. Don't do drugs, people.
which was crazy for at the time too. I mean, the '70s were riddled, but yes.
So is
I
today.
think it was
But-
almost like an awareness thing too, like to bring it up. Maybe I don't know. I'm not certain.
Meanwhile, one of the quotes that I could say here, which is funny, is the inspector saying, "I wish the dead would come back to life, you bastard, so then I could kill you again." And then they do.
Yes.
Careful what you wish for.
Oh my gosh. So Marco, I have to ask you,
What?
why is this one of your favorites?
I think it's because it's different. It's I also have an affinity, and I don't know exactly why, for foreign horror movies, especially Italian ones from the 60s and the 70s. I don't know, it was different. I think that even though we're used to like this ultra violence, very fast paced type of film these days, they were very different back then. The pace was different. They were slower. They took their time telling the story. Even though the running time with this movie is compact, it's like an hour and a half, right? But still, it takes its time telling the story. I also like the fact that there are practical effects, right? So, yes, I'm old-fashioned. Like, I prefer that over CGI.
Right.
So when this poor woman's breast is being yanked out, that was
They did
an
it.
actual
They
cast.
had someone do it.
Right.
Yes.
And I was reading about the movie, and for that scene, they actually cast an actress that didn't have a lot of cleavage
Okay.
because they wanted to build a chest on her so that it can get ripped out. So they needed somebody that was kind of flat-chested,
Right.
right? So I think the practical effects are a reason why I like them. I don't know. There's something. So these foreign horror movies are also dubbed into English, and that adds kind of like some sort of surrealism to them. Because the lips don't match what they're saying.
Yes,
So
I
it's-
noticed that. I thought it
yeah.
was me at first.
No.
And I'm like,
No, that's
Oh.
how they are.
okay.
And Suspiria is like the original Suspiria. Is like that.
Yes.
So it kind of.
Which I
Uh-oh.
watched.
What?
Remember, I watched it in another language.
Yes, I love that you did that. So I think that's another reason why I like them so much, right? So that it kind of throws you off balance, that whole dubbing thing, and it works for horror movies at least. It works in their favor.
Okay. And you've given us wonderful things about foreign Italian films. Why Manchester Morgue? What makes that a standout zombie movie? What was something in that movie that was like, oh my god, for the time, this is crazy.
Yeah, I forget when I first saw it. But I'm on a steady diet of horror movies,
Right,
and
I know.
horror.
Yes.
Yeah, you all know that. Horror movie fans know this. Like we watch so much crap to get to a gem, right?
Yes.
So we can watch 10 movies in a row that are awful, and then one pops up that is great.
Right.
And I was probably in a time where I had watched a bunch of crappy movies, and then this one came along, and I was like, oh,
was
this one
great.
is actually really well crafted, right? He builds it up. The director builds it up. He takes his time telling the story. It had some political commentary, as brief as it was,
Yes.
and it had suspense. and it had those wonderful practical effects.
Yes.
Yeah. Does that
Yes.
answer your question,
It
Zach?
does. It does. Thank you for giving me your insights.
You're very welcome.
Um,
Anytime.
very good.
Ask me anything.
Uh,
Almost anything.
she's a go-getter. Um, but yes, this is overall a well-rounded out movie, even for the time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's a great watch, especially if you're a zombie fanatic,
Right.
which some of us, maybe even this day and age are ashamed to admit. Because I know in 2011,
Right.
2012,
Never be ashamed.
never be ashamed for who you are, Marco.
Okay. Well, let me ask you.
Alrighty.
We're drunk now. Let me ask you this. So, you asked me why I liked Living Dead, right?
Uh-huh.
And as our listeners know, we're of different generations because we mention it all the time. So, as a younger viewer,
Mm-hmm.
right, who's used to Train to Busan, Zombieland,
Right, all
that
that crazy
intensity, right? So, why did you like Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue?
So I've always been a zombie infected lover since I was a kid, right? Like my dad was really into those kind of movies. Like we played video games together, so he got me really into the genre. This really did a good job of mixing characters and I think people and a great story versus some really gritty zombie action. I'm a sucker for good zombie action, and I think like one of the scenes is the boob scene, like you talked about, right? It really hit home for a lot of people where she just dug in there and like yanked it, like it was bloody and messy and great, and like same thing with like Zombieland 2. Like that's why I consider that one another great film because of just the goriness that it has.
Mhm.
It's intense. It's off the cuff, and sometimes the kills are a little impractical, right?
I was just gonna say that, and I couldn't figure out how to word it.
Impractical,
Right,
right?
right.
Like with Sister Mary Catherine and the piano, right? It's impractical. It's funny.
Well, it was funny, yeah,
Right, it's
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
But they do some impractical, crazy zombie killing.
Yeah, it's like the Saw movies. I'm like, this guy.
Yes.
How long did it take this guy
Yeah.
to set up this trap for one person to get killed?
Exactly.
Right? Impractical, but
But they do
they're
it
horror movies. You have to
because
suspend your disbelief.
anyone could sit there and be like, all right, I have a gun, bang, 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 bang. I
Right.
clear to clear zombies. But nope, Tallahassee made a sport out of it,
I am waiting for me to recommend a retro movie to you that you're going to hate, and we're going to talk about it.
Okay. All right, what is it? Throw it at me.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
I didn't think you would like this, to be honest with you.
I always find the positivity. I'm positive Patty, Marco.
Well, okay. But, yeah, I want to hear some. I want to hear.
You want me to hear the things I hate?
Well, yeah, I like. Because, and the reason why I say this is because it's interesting to me to see what your generation thinks of movies that were from my generation.
Well, I mean,
right?
yeah. What is the dialogue a little corny? Sure.
Yes,
You
yeah.
know.
Even I admit
It's,
that.
it's corny as
Yeah,
hell,
yeah.
but it's from the 70s. Is some of the insults a little more direct and impactful? Yes.
The what?
The insults that they kind of tell between people,
yeah.
impactful. Are the zombies a little lackluster? A little bit here
They're
and there.
slow.
They're
Yep,
slow.
yep,
I
yep.
mean, sometimes I'm laughing during the movies, especially
Right.
some of the older movies you give me. There are times I catch myself laughing, and
Yeah.
I can't because I'm like, these are supposed to be scary horrors, and
Right.
I'm like laughing because I've seen. I'm oversaturated because I get things from from my generation with all this effects and all this craziness
Right.
and all this like smoke and mirror, whereas before like they had, like you said, like they had to hire people of a certain caliber to play certain parts to do things, where now it's like, oh, we'll just green screen it, or oh, we'll just CGI
Right, you can't
it.
do that.
You
yeah.
know?
And it's funny because Manchester Morgue was filmed in 74.
Right.
Well, released in 74. It's probably filmed before that. I was way too young to have seen it.
Right.
Almost unborn. But I guess seeing it years later, I was still that generation, right? Where, and this is what I want to say. So I always think to myself, back in 1974, people probably hadn't seen anything like this.
Right.
So they were probably shocked.
And that's how I watch them.
Yeah.
I watch them like this
Thinking
is a
of-
nuance for the time.
Right.
And I watch it like that. And I catch myself laughing sometimes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, this may have freaked some people out.
Right.
And that's how I watched remember we did The Exorcist?
Yeah, and I was going to say that. So I saw
Right.
The Exorcist. When I saw it as a little kid, I was like, I couldn't sleep for a week.
Right.
And then as an adult, I saw it in a movie theater in London, and people were laughing.
Right.
I'm like, why are these people laughing? This movie's terrifying.
Right.
Right.
What are you doing? No, this is scary.
Yeah.
No. But exactly, like it's just because I feel like a lot of the times, especially now with culture, we're oversaturated with effects and CGI.
We've seen it all.
We've seen it.
And you know what it is, too? Like, today, we know how these effects are done.
Right.
Back then, people didn't really know.
Well, that goes back into like theater too, right? Like people who do sets and designs and character costume. Character costumes are a big thing
Yeah.
too, because a lot of the times now people wear green robes and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, now you're wearing this," and now
Right, because they CGI it.
because they just CGI
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
now people used to take hours to intricate little designs of things.
Right.
One of my favorite things to do is go and see character outfits that people make,
Like in the museum and
like
stuff?
in the museums.
Oh,
They're great.
look at you.
And I think there's a lackluster of appreciation for tech crew workers on movie theaters and theater designs, especially back in the day. And I think green screen and technology is kind of killing that field right now.
Oh, no, it's killed it. But there are things that we can do today, and there are like The Lord of the Rings would
Oh.
never have been able to have been filmed back then the way it was filmed, a few
I
years
thought
ago.
that movie
Yeah.
is beautiful.
But we're off topic now, aren't we? It's
And we're
okay.
almost out of time.
We are. So can I say something before we go?
Absolutely, Marco. Let them know.
So, as you guys know, our format is 2 new movies, 1 old one.
Yes.
We call the old one the retro. But I have convinced Zachary to at least twice a year let me do an all retro edition.
Oh.
And we're doing one next time. So I'm not going to tell you the movies,
Yes.
but our next episode will be an all retro edition. And the theme is Women Fight Back.
Women
Yes. So it is a subgenre of the horror films. And it is a rape revenge film.
We love a feisty girl.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yes. Women Fight Back. I am so excited for this. Zach, I'm going to make you watch 3 retro movies.
I'm ready.
Yeah. And you have to be honest. If you
I will.
hate them, you have to tell us.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
All
Like
right.
it, love it, hate it. I'll let
Tell
you know.
us.
I'll
Yes.
tell you.
All right.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in for this week's episode of
The Horror Hags. Bye, everyone.
Bye.